Welcome to the Real Estate Investing School podcast. I'm your host, Joe Jensen. Our guest today is Jan Wenat. Jan is a full-time real estate investor out of Seattle. After buying his first rental, he immediately quit his corporate job and went all in on real estate investing. Jan bought, renovated, and leased 10 rental units in his first year of investing, and now owns 225 cash flowing units around the country. Spends his time traveling, teaching, and pursuing philanthropic causes. Welcome to the show, Jan.
Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, man. I feel like that is the dream bio. I think that's what everybody wants their introduction to be. That's what we're all trying to get.
You know what? I can't complain, really. You know, that's the thing is like I went out and found some big problems to solve and have been working on solving them. And of course, if you're a problem solver and you're that kind of a person, you probably won't be super satisfied once you've solved some of your initial problems. So I just continue to find new problems to solve and continue to enjoy life.
You know, it's funny. I used to think when I see people like really high in real estate or in really any business, like, man, you've gone so far. Like, why are you still doing it? And it's like, the better you get at something and the more you know about it, the funner it is. And so once you've gone through all that learning, it's like, now I can get even more creative and go even harder because I've earned my stripes. And so it's like, yeah, you don't want to quit now.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, the kind of person that's going to get to a certain level is excited by building something, right? And is excited by leveling up in whatever way it is, whether it's business or personal or mental or wellness or physical. I mean, it's exciting to reach new levels always.
100%. Well, let's dive into it, man. You could tell us a little bit of background of you personally, and then I want to dive into how you got 10 rental units in your first year. That seems like a lot for a lot of people. And so I'd love to kind of dive into the details of how that's even possible.
Yeah. I mean, let's start there. That's a logical start. You know, I knew that I wanted to own a portfolio of cash flowing real estate. That was the end goal. And I saw a lot of people understanding their end goal, telling me their end goal, and then doing something totally different. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to be an agent just to figure out the market, or I'm going to wholesale deals and just to build up capital so I can afford rentals. And I heard a lot of that, and I'm like, I'm just going to start with the end goal. I want to buy rentals, so I'm going to start buying rentals, right? And it was, I think that's the hardest part for people is actually just defining and committing to the end goal. And that was not that hard for me because the end goal was exciting. And so I was like, okay, I have $23,000 in savings from 4 years of work at Boeing. And I have a dream. How far will that get me? Let's see, you know? And it turns out I'm getting into 10 rental units. So, and I'm not in like, you know, I'm not in the outskirts of St. Louis, Missouri, where you can buy houses for 20 or 40 grand. I'm in Seattle and Tacoma where, you know, the median home price is like $900,000 for a house.
Yeah, it's like California, New York, Utah. Like those are like those markets where people are like, oh, you can't cash flow. You know, it's hard.
Right. And it is hard, but it's possible. People do it every day. Right.
Yeah.
So I had my 23 grand and it was 2016 and I was going to all these meetups and I was chatting with people and they're like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, just send me everything. And guess what? No one sent me anything because I hadn't defined my criteria at this point. And then I was like, oh, I got to actually tell people exactly what I want. And then I finally, after months, was like, okay, I want single or small multifamily under 500,000 purchase price that needs, you know, less than 100 grand of rehab that I can cash flow about $500 per unit, like gross, you know, rent minus mortgage. I was like, okay, because then if I do a house hack, like that's good enough for me. And so eventually I started telling everyone that, and I started looking for that every single day. And then people started sending me that, and then I started finding a lot of that. And then I found my first house actually on Craigslist, just because I kept looking at those single and small multifamily homes.
What year was this?
2016.
2016. Look at that. Craigslist, guys, in 2016. Yeah. I love that.
I'll be honest, I haven't found another house on Craigslist since, but I still look on occasion because I know it worked. It works once. If it works once, It'll work again. So I bought a house off Craigslist. I had no idea what I was doing. I was working a full-time job at Boeing still, and nights and weekends I would just go to the house and try to manage contractors and, sound like I know what I'm saying, but I really had no idea what I was doing or saying, and very stressful renovation, but I got it done. Partnered with my brother. He helped me do some flooring. He had a flooring company, and he found a guy to do some paint for me and the roof. Got it done, got it rented. My rent is $1,650. My mortgage is $1,150. I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I was shooting for.
Yeah.
And now I made $500 this month. That first month, my tenants didn't call me. They moved in, they got settled, and then I got a rent check, and nothing else happened. I didn't have to do any more work that month. I was like, oh my God, I made $500, but I didn't do anything this month. Right? Yes, it was a ton of work to get to that point.
Right.
But once I made that first rent check, I was like, this is it. I figured it out. I'm rich.
Yeah.
I made my first $500 of cash flow. Let's go. And so, being a 26-year-old with no responsibilities and no money and no experience anyway, I was like, well, I should just quit my job now and give this a real shot. And so I did that. I left immediately. I was like, Boeing, goodbye. I hope I don't have to come back, but
like I could live off $500.
Well, listen, I had 23 grand, I had 23 grand. And so I was like, look, I can live on very little for a year and just figure this out. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like, hey, I think I can make it 6 months on my own. Could you support me for 6 months? If the first 6, are going well, will you do the next 6? She's like, yeah, I will. And so she did support me for a couple of months. She paid my rent. And of course I figured it out after a while, and here it turned out okay, but it definitely helped to have the support network for sure. Someone that was willing to help me. And that's how I got my first house, and, kind of continued from there. And again, I only had 23 grand. So people are like, well, how are you going to buy all these units you want to buy? And I'm like, well, I don't have a job anymore. I don't have an income anymore. And I barely have any cash, but I know people with jobs and I know people with cash. And I was like, look, I found the first deal. I know I can find more deals. So next I find a fourplex on market. We make an offer. Our offer gets accepted after a lot of back and forth. And then I get it under contract, and still not knowing how I'm going to buy this thing. But then I start hitting up my contacts and say, look, I've done this house. I'm a real estate investor now. I have one house.
Right.
I'm official.
But no job. So, it's legit. So.
Right. And barely any money. So, let's go. Let's do this thing. And look, I knew strangers maybe would not believe in me, but I knew that some friends and family would see my hustle and see that I had success on the first house and then maybe give me a shot. And so naturally I went to my brother and I said, look, you work at Amazon. You have a job. I can't qualify for this fourplex, but you can. Can you co-sign on this loan for me? We'll split it. I'll do all the work. All you have to do is put up some money and put up your signature on these loan docs, because I can't qualify for this damn thing. And then we'll split it. And he said, yeah, okay. And so I found the deal. I managed to rehab, and we split it 50-50. He put up a bunch of cash, and he co-signed on the loan for me. Actually, he's the only signer on the loan. I'm just on title. I'm not on the loan. And I got it renovated. He moved in. It was another house hack. People are like, oh, I don't have a lot of cash. Well, you don't need a lot of cash. What you need to do is be willing to sacrifice your living situation and move every year, like I did, into the next house hack and into the next house hack. Yes, it's a headache, but how much do you care about your goals? Right. And so that's exactly what we did. I found a house hack for him after I found one for me. And then I'm like, okay, we're really running out of money. And so the next one, I had no money left. I put my money into the first 5 units that we acquired. And so what I did is I had a 401k at Boeing. And what you can do is convert your 401k into a solo 401k and take half of it and give a loan to yourself. So I gave a loan to myself. I said, look, Boeing, I need $40,000. I'm going to turn this into a solo 401k. I'm going to take 30 grand out. And then I found another deal, a triplex in Tacoma. what you'll notice about all these deals is that they all perfectly met my criteria. Once I got crystal clear on my criteria of single and small multifamily in Tacoma, under 500,000, under 100K rehab, $500 a unit cash flow, magically or not, this started coming to me because that's all I looked for. That's all I thought about. That's all I did. And so that is really important. Before you can ever achieve something, you have to define exactly what you're going to achieve and what you're going to go get. And then it starts showing up in your life, right? If you say, hey, if you start thinking about a yellow Volkswagen Bug, suddenly you start seeing those everywhere. So that's exactly what happened to me. And it's exactly what can happen for you if you pick the thing. It's hard to pick the thing, though, because there's so many cool things. That's almost the problem in investing. There's too many ways to make money.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's overwhelming, especially with real estate. It's like there's so many ways that aren't even aligned. Like you're saying, some people are wholesaling and flipping when they're trying to cash flow, but there's just so many options, and they're an agent, and it's like they're taking them down all these different paths, but it's all engulfed in real estate, and so it can be overwhelming. Even if you do know what you're looking for, I want a cash flow. It's like I said, there's 1,000 different ways to do that don't even make sense for you.
Right.
So I love that.
Yeah. So, we had the 5 units, and then I'm out of money, convert my 401k, take a loan to myself, 30 grand. And then I find a triplex off market, $200,000 for a beautiful triplex with mountain and city views of Tacoma. Tacoma is a city about 40 minutes south of Seattle. And then however, I know I can get a hard money loan because they don't need me to have a W-2 and an income. I still don't have any income, by the way.
Right.
But I still have a dream, and I have a little bit of cash now again because I pulled it out of my 401k, and I found the triplex, and I'm like, look, I'm going to buy this with hard money. However, I don't have a way to refinance and hold this thing forever. And so I thought, okay, who else has a job? My mom has a job. Hey, Mom, you're going to live in this triplex, okay?
So first it was you, and then it was your brother.
Yep.
And then now you're like, hey, Mom, my brother's primary loan is used up. Yep. So can't get away with 5 or 3.5% down. Are you doing conventional or FHA loans on these?
Every time I can, I'm using FHA.
Yeah. So 3.5 to 5% down. And you're like, hey, Mom, you have a job? Work for my brother and me. Like, hey, let's give it a shot.
Every time the opportunity you're presenting becomes clearer because you're like, look, I've done this 2 times. Look, I've done this 3 times. Look, I've done this 10 times. It'll probably work again, right?
And you're like, there's no downside to them either. It's like, oh, well, they're using their primary loan. Like, so what? Like, they can use it again next year on their own now that they saw how you did it. Like, you're actually educating them. It's not like you're taking from them. It's just like there's no downside. As long as they trust you and you deliver with what you say, then it's all good.
That's exactly it. And so put my mom in the triplex. She was very happy. She lives now in the triplex. She's been living in that triplex for the last 5 years.
Nice.
And she lives rent free. She doesn't pay for rent. The other 2 units cover the mortgage completely. And so, in my first year of real estate investment, I was able to financially take care of my mother, and she comes she'll come up to me on occasion, like we're at a wedding together or something, and she has a very strong Polish accent. We're immigrants from Poland. She goes, Yashu, I have been saving my money because I have no more rent payment, and now I have $100,000 in my bank account. Can you believe it, Yashu?
That's awesome. What a gift. And just cool, she sees that was because of your help as well. That's so cool. That's awesome.
She's never had a savings account, right? Single mom raising 3 boys in a new country. What's a savings account, right? She made $42,000 a year her whole life.
And you're like, Mom, with that 100,000, we can go buy more real estate and get you cash flow, and you never have to work again.
That's it, right? And so that was single family, 4plex for my brother, triplex for my mom. There's 8 units right there, 3 deals. And then guess what? The 4th one, I'm like, well, obviously I'm able to find deals. Obviously I don't have any more money now because I spent all my money again. And also I still don't have a job or income, so I can't get a loan. But you know what I do have? A girlfriend with a job. So I was like, hey, honey, you're going to live in this duplex, okay? I just need you to sign on these loan docs. And also, we need a loan from your family for $14,000. That's the down payment on this FHA loan. I promise it'll work. Just trust me. And luckily, you can gift someone up to $14,000 per year without being taxed on it. That is the maximum amount. Her parents gave her a loan of $14,000 and bought the duplex. FHA, 3.5% down, and renovated it, got it cash flowing, paid back her parents, and then we had a cash flowing duplex, and again, with $14,000 down, you can control a $500,000 piece of real estate. I mean, only in America is that an option.
Yeah.
Only in America is that an option. I don't know if anyone here is listening from other countries, but when they hear stuff like 3.5% down, their minds are blown. Because, and same thing with 30-year fixed debt. That's not an option everywhere.
It's crazy.
You want to get a 30-year fixed loan in Canada, just our neighbor to the north? No, you're not getting that. You know what you're getting? A 5-year loan.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no 30. That's crazy. 30-year fixed at 3% interest, even at 7% interest. It's amazing.
Yeah, we really take for granted how unique that is in the world. Like all the benefits and programs and like all these things set up to just help people get into real estate. It's like it's life changing, obviously, but it's like it's not the norm. People we take it for granted.
That's it. You're in the best country on earth to make a living, to earn a buck, to make $1. And people are just out here watching Netflix and scrolling Instagram for 8 hours. I'm like, you're missing the opportunity. We're here. We're in America. This is the place to earn a living. Like, this is it. So.
Well, and debt, like that's the thing is we use debt with real estate, right? And like normally in life, debt is really dangerous. Credit card debt, consumer debt, like these things eat you alive and you get stuck in this hole. But it's like even real estate debt, if you're getting bad loans, they can be scary. But it's like because of how generous this debt is, where it's 30 years locked, you know what I mean? It's low money down, it's low interest. Like the terms of these real estate loans we can get, especially with house hacking, like you're talking about. That's what makes the debt just the most powerful tool for wealth creation that the average person could ever hope for.
It's absolute insanity how high you can leverage. I mean, like I said, my girlfriend and I at the time, we controlled a $500,000 asset for $14,000 of not our own money, of her father's loan money.
Yeah.
$14,000. Look, I don't care who you are. If you put together an amazing investment opportunity, I bet you somebody in your life would be willing to loan you $14,000 to do that investment if you put together a very clear plan. And that's what I've become good at, is putting together a very clear plan. No one's just throwing money at you if you're just chatting, but if you put together financial projections and a 5-year outlook and understand the area and understand the renovation that you're going to do and how much rent is going to be, if you put together all of those numbers and you present it on a silver platter to somebody, and you can say, look, you give me $14K, this is exactly how I'll pay you back with interest or with a profit sharing model, then people are excited because they don't have a lot of good investment opportunities in their life. So that's why I was never rejected by my brother or my mom or my girlfriend, because I put together a clear plan to success. And so that's something that's missing from what I see a lot of people hope for. They just think they can chat about it and find $100,000. It's not that easy. But if you have a clear plan, it is easier than you think. So
I love that. It's like people say like, oh, is this a good deal? It's like a good deal is all in relation or all relative to the alternative, right? And when most people's alternative is put it in my 401k and get 4 to 8% a year and then have it hemorrhage every 6 years and then I lose it all. Like, it's like, where else are people putting their money? You know what I mean? Invest in some risky business that goes under and you have nothing to show for it. It's like real estate's so secure. It's so safe. It gives higher returns than the other stuff. It's like, so you go to these people that don't have a lot of, other options because they're just normal people living normal lives. It's like, this is the best option for them when you can break it down, especially when you look at all, you can get them cash flow. If you're doing a partner sharing thing, they can get tax benefits. They can get, the principal pay down. They can do depreciation write-offs. They're getting cash flow. Like there's all these different ways they're making money. And it's like, where else can you find that,
Totally. So yeah, I mean, to summarize, that's my biggest tip for people getting started is really get crystal clear on your criteria. Define, first of all, what you want. Most people don't ever make it there. And the reason most people don't ever define what they want, because once you define what you want, it takes effort to go get it. People are scared of effort, and I understand that. It is scary to venture new things and into new things and know you're going to have to work really hard to make them happen. But that's what happens. If you want a life, I think, well lived, you have to define something that you want for yourself or for the world. And then the universe will open its doors to you in achieving that. But first, you really have to define exactly what it is you want. And then you don't ask, you really don't have to worry about how. Like you'll figure out how if what you want is really clear. I didn't have money, I didn't have credit, but I knew other humans on earth had money and credit. And so if I could put together a great business plan, I knew I could go get the things that were missing. You can always find the things that are missing. If you believe in yourself, you can always find those missing pieces, right?
Well, it's like say it's like you're doing a puzzle, right? You have this puzzle and you just need to put the pieces in place and then it creates the puzzle. But if you're looking, if you don't know which puzzle you're doing and you just throw 20 different puzzles all in one big pile, all these different pieces, like how do you put that puzzle together? And that's what you said before. It's like eliminate everything except for that one specific puzzle. And then, it's still, you got to do the work. You got to like look and hard. It's time consuming, annoying or whatever, fun for some people. But it's like, you still got to do the work, but now it's doable because it's only the pieces to the one puzzle you're working on, not 20 different pieces all mixed into one.
That's it.
And I love that concept. It's like when you said at the beginning, the thought that came to me was everything is nothing. When you're like, hey, send me any deals. And you got no deals. I'm like, everything is nothing. Like it has to be specific and limited. And now you have something.
That's it.
I love that.
Joe knows what's up.
So I have a couple questions from some of that. I was taking a couple notes here. So I love the idea that everything's nothing. I love the idea of like, do the things that will actually lead to your goal. Like you were talking about knowing what you want to do. And then like putting the trajectory in place, not doing side things and, actually start moving the needle on that goal. And you talked about your end goal. And I think it's important that people realize like, Jan, your end goal wasn't your end goal. It was just the first end goal. Like, you're like, I want to hit 10 units or I want to cash flow X amount, that's not the ultimate goal of eternity. Like you're going to keep growing past that, but it's like, you have like a level 1 end goal, and then you put your blinders on and do everything to hit that. So many times I think people are distracted by the 5th level end goal. And they're like, that's impossible. How would I ever get there? It's like, dude, just look at level 1 end goal and put your blinders on and just go hit that one. Don't worry about the next and the next and the next and the next. It's interesting that you went all in, and that's kind of how I got into real estate too. I just stopped working. I just went all in, lived off my savings. And it's like, I don't recommend that to most of my students. I'm like, keep your job. Like having an income is really helpful to get loans and it gives you capital. And but sometimes, man, it's like, I don't know. There's something about going all in that it works for some people. Obviously it worked for you and me, and I've had students do it. But it's not necessarily advisable to everybody, but man, there's something about it that it's like, there's fire behind that.
Well, I think look, in the right situation, I think it's a good idea. Like, and I think this, one of the right situations, and it's a very limited amount of situations that I think this going all in makes sense. But if you're young and broke and lack knowledge and experience, and you don't have a family, right? Like, I was young and broke and I didn't have a family or other responsibilities.
What do you have to lose?
What do I have to lose? And so the best case, I take my 23 grand, I take my dream, I go and try to execute on building a cash flowing portfolio of real estate, and I fail. What have I lost? Probably just 23 grand, most likely.
Yeah. Because, and maybe a year of other income you could have made,
Exactly. And
like
so
whatever.
If I'm a broke and unknowledgeable 26-year-old with no experience, what's the worst that could happen? In a year, I'm going to be a broke 27-year-old with no knowledge and experience, a slightly bigger amount of experience. Cool. Yeah. Like, oh, well, same exact thing. I'm still just as employable or unemployable, depending on how you want to look at it. Right. So in specific situations where you don't have other dependents, I think, and you're young and you don't have a lot to lose, like, yeah, go all in. Sure. In many other situations, it doesn't make sense, but you have to kind of analyze that for yourself.
Well, and it motivates you, it pushes you. Like say, if you don't have responsibilities, you look at the risk versus reward. Like say, very low risk, with huge upside potential. I mean, just such an asymmetrical investment of going all in when you don't have much to lose. They use the analogy of like burn your ships, like Cortez, they landed on the Americas and he burned the ship so they couldn't go back, which for the record, not true, I found out. But it's a great analogy and we all love it. Salespeople love to share that story.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, the analogy is great though. If you burn the ships, you don't have any other choice. It's like your focus gets very clear and you're just like, hey, this is where all my focus, time, energy, bandwidth is going because like I'm not doing other stuff,
Yeah. What's interesting is even though I've had a lot of success in that first year and into my second year, following that same strategy, getting real clear on my buying criteria and continuing with that, I really got pulled into a lot of different directions over the next, I would say 4 years until just recently. And I kind of became just good at everything, but not great at anything. And it took me, honestly, the last 4 years of doing a little bit of everything. And don't get me wrong, making great money, making an impact in many ways and building a portfolio. And, generally I'm happy with my progress, but I just really started to, honestly, just a couple months ago, or just a few months ago, I analyzed my 2022 tax return and I analyzed every one of my businesses. And I'm like, why do I have like 9 different revenue streams that are unrelated? People are like, oh, you got to go and build all these revenue streams. I'm like, there's some value in that. But guess what? My most successful friends, they have 9 different revenue streams coming off of one business. Like they've just targeted one thing, right? So one of my most successful friends, self-storage guy, $700 billion in assets under management, and all he does is self-storage.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, God, I'm doing residential flips, residential rentals, residential new construction between like mid-grade and luxury, mobile home parks, RV parks, wholesale. I'm teaching real estate. I have affiliate income. I'm like, man, I'm doing so many damn things. And so actually just literally in the last 3 months, I'm like, man, I got to cut out pretty much everything. So now I'm at a new place where I'm just like, I'm going to build a mobile home park company that's going to acquire $150 million of real estate in the next 5 to 7 years. And I'm going to focus on my education business and my Facebook community for real estate investors because I really find a lot of passion and joy in that. In teaching and sharing and connecting people and coordinating community. And I've, and in terms of business, I make the most money with the mobile home park business. And so after I finish all my residential projects, I'm actually dropping all residential work. And I'm going to really focus on commercial real estate investment going forward. And that way I can just it's interesting because I started there. I knew that concept worked, right? But then I got pulled in many different ways and I did make good money and I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot in all these different asset classes. But I think if you want to get really successful and make the biggest possible impact, you have to just pick one. You have to pick one.
I love that. It's something to be said. It's like, when you're first studying real estate, it's like, yeah, study all of it and then pick one that makes sense for actually achieving your goal. And then once you're into it, it's kind of like you did the same thing. You actually started doing all of it. And there's maybe a time and a place so you can kind of test and see what you like, what does bring the best income. But at some point, like you said, you got to refocus that and go, okay, 80-20 rule, right? 80% of my effort brings in, or 20% of my, however that goes, 20% of my effort brings in 80% of my income.
Right.
It's like, why am I doing the other 80% of effort if that's only producing 20%? So now you said, I'm going to eliminate all that 80%, focus on the 20% that's actually giving me the 80% of the results I want, and now I've got way more bandwidth to actually grow that and get really, really focused again after you kind of got, distracted, but you learn it because maybe it wasn't mobile home parks. Maybe if you hadn't tried everything, you wouldn't have found mobile home parks. So you kind of had to go out on the journey, but at some point you got to bring it in. And so that's really exciting that's kind of where you're at and what you're focusing on now. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into mobile home parks at all? And why was that this is the one, I'm going to eliminate everything else?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So About 3 years ago, I was managing maybe about 15 of my single and small multifamily rentals myself because I was just like still in do-it-yourself mode.
Yeah, you didn't even mention landlording with your list of all these things. Like, and I'm landlording. You know?
Right. Well, yeah. Luckily, I'm not so much anymore. So
Yeah.
But about 3 years ago, about 2019 or so, going into 2020, I had 15. I was managing still like 15 rentals. Some other people were managing some of them. I was managing 15, and I had three units. The washing machine broke in like 1 week, and I was just like so frustrated with that. There's always headaches when you own property. Things break and people complain and people do weird stuff in your houses. And it is what it is. It's just part of the business. But for some reason, this thing just hit me where I was like so frustrated by having to fix and run around and go to Home Depots and call around and get movers and all this stuff. And it was just a huge headache. And I was like, man, I love appreciation in real estate. I love cash flow in real estate. How can I continue getting these things without owning so many things? I'm tired of owning so many things that break. That coupled with, it was, like I said, end of 2019, going into 2020, we had been on the longest bull run economically in American history.
Yeah.
Right? From 2010 to 2020, holy shit. Like
you couldn't lose.
A lot of wealth was created. I mean, if you bought anything in 2010, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like you had tripled up on value.
Or in 2012 or 2015, along that whole path, like it was really hard to lose.
It was insane. If you lost, you were truly, and you truly screwed up. And so because I had seen the economy as a raging bull for 10 years, I was like, I've watched, American recessions occur before. I've read about them. I see that the American recession happens roughly every 8 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. We are due for a recession. And so those two things, just getting annoyed of things breaking and owning so many things, and the fear of a recession caused me to start looking into other asset classes. And so I thought, what should I look into? Well, I started asking around, and it turns out there's 3 assets, mobile home parks, RV parks, and self-storage that are considered uncorrelated assets. And they're called that because they're the valuations of those asset classes are uncorrelated or disconnected from the values of single-family homes in America. Right? So just because single-family homes are taking a nosedive doesn't mean that mobile home parks or self-storage are going to take a nosedive. Whereas a lot of other things in the economy are connected to the values of single-family homes, right? Because if single-family homes are going up, that's a good thing, because then people that are homeowners are like, oh, great, well, now I'm going to use my credit to improve my home, and I'm going to hire contractors, and I'm going to go to Home Depot, and I'm going to buy supplies, and I'm going to, values are up, so I'm going on an extra vacation. And so there's a lot of things in our economy that are connected to single-family homes. And so to diversify out of that and be disconnected from single-family homes, which are really, one of the cornerstones of American economy, I wanted to get into something else. And so RV parks are kind of at the top of that food chain in terms of how much profit and how high the cap rate is, right? They pump out a lot of cash, and the cap rates are a lot higher compared to mobile home parks and self-storage. However, they're also very high operational input. And I'm like, wait, I don't want to do that. I'm already with having to fix 3 washers this week, right? I don't want more operational input like in a resort RV park. So that was a no. And then on the bottom, in terms of like cap rate or cash flow or profit, is self-storage. But it's also like the lowest operational input, where you just own concrete boxes, concrete and steel, and people put their stuff in it, and you don't have tenants and you don't have plumbing, and it's really cool. But the cap rates, I started looking at deals in all 3, and the cap rates were really low. And I'm like, well, I can do some work. I can do some operational work. I'm still young. I'm still hungry. And so I settled on the middle one, mobile home parks, right? I don't own homes. I just own land and utilities and roads, which is cool, because if you fix your utility, if you install new water lines underground, they last for a long time if you take care of them.
Yeah.
They're not like a washing machine that's going to break every 4, 5, 6 years when tenants are rough with it, right? And so I settled in the middle, and mobile home parks are also very recession resistant. If you think about it, if we have a recession or when we have a recession, people downgrade their housing because it's their single most expensive line item in their budget, right? Most Americans, if you ask them, what is the most expensive single thing you pay for each month?
It's their home. Yeah.
It's their house or it's their rent, right? And so the first thing people look at is like, man, I live in a $4,000 apartment in downtown Seattle or downtown LA. Maybe I'll downgrade to a $2,000 apartment outside of the city a little bit, right? 10 minutes outside of the city, 5 minutes outside of the city. And if you live in a $2,000 apartment, maybe you go to $1,000. If you live in a $1,000 apartment, as a family, and you need to downgrade because you all lost your jobs, you don't have a lot of options besides. I mean, I can get you a 1,100 square foot home, 2-bed, 1-bath, or even bigger, like 3-bed, 2-bath, double wide, for like $600, right? For a nice big home in a nice clean community.
Yeah.
Or if you bring your own home, you can find a used trailer for free often. That's like 700 square feet, 2-bed, 1-bath, and you can put it inside my community for $300 a month. This is by far the cheapest housing in America, the most affordable housing in America, and it's the last bastion of affordable housing in America, and we have to protect it because there's people that literally depend. Whether they become homeless depends on if they can find something for $300 versus $1,000.
Yeah. It's like every couple $100 is a huge swing when you're at that economic level. And the cool thing, like I said, when the economy goes down, your tenant quality goes up because now these people that were homeowners are going to mobile homes and they're the same quality of tenant. You know what I mean? As opposed, it's like they're not bad tenants. Like a lot of times mobile homes get this rap of like, trailer trash, that term and stuff like that. And that's just how a park is ran. It has nothing to do with the asset class. There's really, really nice mobile homes. There's mid-grade ones. There's trashy ones. There's whatever you want to do, just like stick-built ones. But it's cool. Like I said, the economy goes down, your tenant class goes up, making it a better place for everybody, which is a great place to be in.
Yeah, theoretically, I don't know. I haven't lived through a real recession while owning parks, but we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to see how it goes. The next time we have a significant recession, we'll see if I have more tenants and better tenants. But the theory is that I will have more demand for a low-cost housing product because people are going to need to downgrade their housing, and that makes logical sense to me. And also, I grew up very poor. Like I mentioned earlier. I grew up with a single mom raising 3 boys in a new country and on a $42,000 a year salary. I don't know how she did it, man. I spent $42,000 this month on stuff.
You're like, what, Mom? How'd you do that?
How did you do that with all 3 of us? That's incredible, woman. And super impressive that she was able to do it. But, we grew up on Section 8 and food stamps, and I never felt poor, but we certainly didn't have, we didn't certainly have all the things that other kids had, and that felt okay. But I do know we had some not so great landlords that, I felt like either took advantage of us or just didn't treat us very well or didn't listen to maintenance requests or concerns. And we work really hard and interview a ton of people to put the best possible quality managers to live inside our communities and hear tenant requests for maintenance and take care of them. I mean, I got off of, got off a call yesterday and one of my park managers said like, hey, the tenants are really happy you guys added another dumpster so there's no more overflow issues, but they're concerned about this tree that's, that looks like it's dangerous. Can I take a look at it? I'm like, don't even ask me. Just go and just do what you need to do to take care of safety and habitability stuff, right? So we really do our best to like make sure that communities are clean. If there's drug dealers or there's potential like crime happening or there's any kind of riffraff, we work hard to remove those people ASAP because we're focused on providing communities for families and their children to live their life, right? I know what it's like to grow up broke in this country, but be trying hard to get a head start, and get ahead. And it's easier when you have a community that feels safe. You have to have at least a feeling of safety before you can do anything, really, right? Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in this like emotional distress state forever, where you always feel like you got to be vigilant and on the lookout. And that's no way to grow. You can't grow when you're in that emotional state. And so it's critical to us to really clean up the community, remove anyone that's a threat to families and their children living their life, hardworking people just getting their start in this country. And so we really make an effort to provide clean, safe, affordable housing to people, and it's a pleasure to do that.
That's awesome, man. And not everybody does. Like I said, it's so cool to get these like texts and messages from tenants who are like, thank you. Like, oh, we're so stoked you're our landlord or owner. Like you're taking care of it, because these other people, they never did. Yeah. And it's like, it's such a win-win. And it's really cool, because if you do treat your tenants like humans and you try to actually provide what you just described, it's like, that's such a service that there's so much mutual respect between the tenants and landlords that everybody's winning. When it's handled that way. I love that. And like I said, it's so cool on the investment side, because there's way less headache, even though you can address these things, but you're not having to do everything. Like I love the lots that I own that have tenant-owned mobile homes on them, because I just own the dirt, and it's like, I don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? Like say occasional little things here or there, but it's like, man, you just make that infinite return, which just goes back to the taste of what you first got with that first $500 that you're like, okay, I did all this front loaded of effort and time and money, but now I'm getting this $500 forever. And like, to me, like that's what's so exciting about real estate is the infinite return. I can put in all this effort, but it's going to repay me back forever, whether I keep that asset or roll it into another asset or whatever. Like it's going to pay forever. And I used to do like high commission sales jobs, and it was like, I know people making crazy money, but it doesn't even excite me or interest me at all if it's like a one-time hit. Oh, cool, I made 20 grand a day or 50 grand. It's like, but what about tomorrow? What about next year? What about 10 years from now? I want an infinite return. Like that is just so exciting. That's the taste of real estate.
Totally agree. Yeah. I mean, not only that, but in this country, if you don't recognize the fact that the people that are winning and the people that are living the best possible life and having the best impact own things, if you don't recognize that quickly, you're not going to have a great time living in America, right? This is pure capitalism. This is a capitalist economy. In capitalist economies, the people that have the biggest impact and live the best life are the people that control the means of production. That's why you're listening to us speak right now, because you need to start controlling means of production. And those are assets like land, like real estate, like space. And that's why we're all here. Because we have wisened up to that fact that is how I'm going to live the best life for my family and for myself, but also for the causes that I care about in the world. I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm making an impact in the spaces that I care about. Right? I'm providing experiences and opportunities for other people that I wish I had. And I'm only able to do that because I've figured out that I need to control the means of production. This is, again, capitalist economy. And that's how you get ahead. And that's how you make an impact that you want to make in this world is work with the system that's in place. I'm not smart enough to try to change the system. I don't need to, I'm here to work with the system, and the system is incentivizing me and telling me I should go and control more assets. I should learn how to, buy property that's going to create opportunity for me and for others, and then go and use that money to start other businesses, to invest in in philanthropic enterprise, or somehow otherwise create the impact that I want to see happen on Earth. So
I love that, man. And any of my students will vouch. I always say this. It's like your number one fiscal responsibility is to build your portfolio out, your asset portfolio. Like that's your number one fiscal responsibility. If you're not making millions of dollars, like that's a side note. You make money to build your asset portfolio. Like that needs to be people's mindset. Like that's the whole focus, because that's what grows. That's what gives you the opportunity. That's what allowed you to do everything you were just explaining, is to grow your asset portfolio. And it's like, if people can really buy into that and understand that, and like I said, not get distracted by the wholesaling and the flipping and the making the money and all these different things. If they can use all that to grow their portfolio, and that's awesome. But if they're only doing that and not growing the portfolio, they're missing the boat, you know. So that's your number one fiscal responsibility: grow your asset portfolio.
I totally agree. And a lot of doors will open once people know they're speaking to someone that owns 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or $500 million of real estate. It's like you're having different conversations. You're being let into different circles, and you're the impact and the vision you want for your life and for this world, it's going to materialize a lot easier when you have all of that backing.
Man, this is awesome, Jan. This was inspirational. This was exciting. I think there's a lot that anybody new or experienced can get from this conversation with you. We could definitely talk about it forever. I do want to get into our final 4 questions, but is there anything else you wanted to share before we do that?
I'm good, man. Let it flow.
Cool. Well, that was awesome. We'll dive into this then. I think that's a great place to kind of end off. So number 1 question, Jan, what is a non-real estate related bucket list item you've recently checked off or you're excited to check off next?
That's a good one. Okay. I think one of my big non-real estate related goals is to open a restaurant that earns a Michelin star one day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We got a foodie on our hands, huh?
Sure. Yeah. Part of real estate investment that's really fun for me is like creating the space and experience that other people can enjoy, right? Because when I renovate a house and I put it out there into the world, like people are living out the story of their lives in this space, and that's exciting. Or in Airbnb, people are enjoying and like coming to this space specifically because they like the design. They want to be in that space, and probably because they want an Instagram picture, right? But like, I think it's really fun, and I'm a consumer of experience, of other people's experiences, and I would just love to also be a creator of an experience like a fine dining experience. And so, one of my friends is a excellent chef. Has worked in Michelin star restaurants. And I don't know anything about cooking, to be completely frank with you, but I like creating an experience. And so I know I can find someone that's really amazing at cooking and design kind of the back of the house and the menu. And then I can find someone that's really obsessed with a high level of service and a very detailed experience for guests. And I think that would be really fun to partner with 2 other people to run kind of front of the house and the kitchen. And then I can just do what I'm good at, which is business and finding the property and hiring architects and raising capital and figuring out debt and, putting a bookkeeper on it. And I think that's actually what's missing from a lot of restaurants. And that's why so many restaurants fail, is actually they just love food, but they don't know much about business. Well, I'm kind of the opposite. Mm-hmm. So I think if I put the right people in place, I think that would be an exciting venture sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not like I need to do this now.
Right.
Have you heard this one? How do you end up as a millionaire in the restaurant industry?
How?
You start as a billionaire.
There you go.
So, like, I know it is a tough industry, but it's kind of one of those like fun goals, that I think will be a big effort, but I would love to do it someday. And I've started building out a simple business plan for that already. But I need to make a little bit more money and have a little bit more equity in the things that I know are working before I go and risk it. So
that sounds like an awesome passion project. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. I love it, man. Question number 2. What book are you currently reading?
Okay, right now. So I just finished the book Lighter by Young Pueblo, and I really enjoyed that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've seen his advertising. I follow him on, and I've read like some of the pages. Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's really good. It's really good. I'm in this with real estate investment specifically. They teach you and they tell you got to go get financial freedom, right? And then you go get financial freedom after a lot of time and effort, and then they're like, okay, you got to get time freedom, why are you working so much? You got to get some freedom. So I'm like, all right, God damn it. Okay, I got to like systemize stuff and figure out how to work less and whatever. And then I feel like I got time freedom. And then they don't really have a plan for you after that. And they kind of
it's like, what do I do now?
Right. And so, for myself, I've kind of defined, okay, I would like to get more emotional and mental freedom, really, and feel. And that's what the book is about. It's about more emotional and mental freedom. It's about living your life with less on your mind and feeling lighter and moving through life with more presence. And I feel that the universe is guiding me towards that. And so that's been a fun pursuit. I just finished that book and I really liked it. I recommend it. And I just started reading Traction, which is all about EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And that's kind of the basis now that I'm going to use to build my mobile home park company. And that's the operating system we plan to use to grow, to hit the goals we want.
I love it, man. I love it, Jan. Okay, question 3. What content, could be a book, a podcast, a course, a YouTube channel, etc., besides anything that you and I are involved with, what content would you recommend people check out?
I think it depends on, what you're targeting.
Sure.
I would say a book that I like that's kind of like finance heavy a little bit. I think it's called 30 Cash Flow and 36 Other Profit Metrics that like every real estate investor should know. Something like that. I don't have it exactly, but that was a nice basis for understanding some of the profit metrics and kind of more finance heavy parts of real estate investment. I really think real estate investment at its core is the mastery of numbers and relationships. And so if you're good at relationships, that's awesome. But I think there's an opportunity to get better at the numbers piece. And so that's a good one. Whether maybe you're a finance geek and that's going to be an easy read, but even if you're like, oh, I'm really good at relationships, that one's going to challenge you and push you. So
I think that's awesome. So it's something about 30 cash flow and 36 other metrics to look at. I love that. That's super cool. I think that's a vital part. So much of real estate really is just about risk mitigation. And it's like the better you understand the numbers and how they interact and what their story they're telling, like is how you can mitigate risk for you and your partners and everybody. Anyway, I'm a big fan of that. And I'm not a numbers guy. I hate math. I suck at it. But like, man, I make a spreadsheet for everything in my life now because It's like you can run the numbers if it's on the spreadsheet,
Right. And so just so I get this right for folks that are listening, the book is called, this is a very long title, What Every Real Estate Investor Needs to Know About Cash Flow and 36 Other Key Financial Measures by Frank Gallinelli.
Wow, Frank, going for a big title there, Frank. That's great. Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing the full title. I want to check that one out. I haven't heard of that book, so I'm excited for that. Okay, last question, then we'll let you get back to your amazing life. Okay, so you pull out your phone if you can find it. At the beginning, I'm like, hey, is your phone turned off? Like, I don't even know where it's at. I'm like, that's when you know you're living the right life. You don't even know where your phone's at. Okay, but if you did find your phone and you pulled it out and you wrote a text message and everybody in the world gets this message from you, what's it going to say?
I think it would say, what do you want? What do you want out of life, right? What do you want? What do you envision for your life and for the world? And let people answer that text message and tell me what they want. And often what they're doing isn't what they want for their life or for the world. And so I think that's a big problem. That's a core problem, especially in developed countries. We have too many people that have dreams, that have ideas of how the world should be, of how their life could be, and they're just simply not pursuing it because they're scared or because they're worried or because they know it's going to be a big effort. And I would just want to encourage all of you guys to first figure out what it is you want and for yourself and for the world, and then say F you to everything else and go get that. Go do the thing that you really want to do, because we need more people living their God-given purpose, whether it's creating art or teaching or reading or traveling or spending time with your family. Like, it's 2023. You can monetize all of those things. Don't tell me that you can't make money off any of those things, because I can tell you 10 ways you can monetize anything. And so that's what I would want to send in a text message to everybody is, what do you want? and then go and get that.
I love that, man. I love that. And then the cool thing, like you said, is if with real estate, if you do get that financial or time freedom, then you can just go do that as your passion. You know, I'll ask my 6-year-old girl, I'm like, what do you want to do when you grow up? She's like, oh, I want to be a rock star and a dolphin trainer, like all these different things. I'm like, no, just be a real estate investor. And then you can go do all of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you don't have to worry about monetizing it. But I love it, man. That's super great. This has been a pleasure. I'm glad the first time we tried to record this, my internet cut out and we lost it. So I'm glad we were able to get back together and so everybody could hear what you have to share. If people want to stay in touch with you and follow what you're doing or maybe even reach out, what's the best way for people to follow up with you?
Yeah. The best 2 ways I would say are Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, my name is Jan Wanat, and you can find my Facebook group called WA Real Estate Investing, like Washington Real Estate Investing. And we've got 17,000 members in the Pacific Northwest that are all connecting and sharing value and doing deals. And then on Instagram, my handle is Grow with Jan, Jan. So look forward to chatting with you guys there. Joe, thank you so much for having me, man. Pleasure to talk with you, and hope to stay connected.
Absolutely. Well, without any further ado, this is Joe Jensen signing off for the Real Estate Investing School podcast, reminding you that everything is nothing. Get specific.